Welcome back to the Carp Chronicles podcast. In this episode, we answer your questions on all manner of topics such as winter fishing tactics, synergy within bait, and a whole load more. And of course, as per usual, we go off on many tangents. So if that is your kind of episode, this one is most definitely for you. I will forewarn you, I get pretty hammered, drink the best part of a bottle of rum, and go off on a few waffling tangents. So apologies about that in advance. Hopefully it makes for reasonable listening. I know some of you like it when I have a few too many drinks and just chat shit. So if that's your thing, this episode is for you. Before we jump into the show, of course, we are brought to you by carphuntergiveaways.co.uk. If you don't know by now, these guys do all manner of cool prize draws from bite alarms, bed chairs, bivvies, everything you can think of. And as the festive season is upon us, they're doing a very cool Christmas cash wheel, where basically 3 people win a chance to spin the metaphorical wheel and win cash prizes. And I'm not talking about 20 or 50 pounds. I'm talking about big cash prizes. It's a bit of fun for Christmas. It's all in the spirit of the festive season. So if you'd like to get involved with that, please go ahead, visit carphuntergiveaways.co.uk to join in on the fun. Of course, we are also brought to you by our own little artisan bait company, which is called Bait Bros. You can check us out at baitbros.co.uk. We have very, very specialist products for sale on our website, and we have a new one called Ester Ace, which is a blend of esters and some other compounds. If you've heard about esters and you've wanted to give them a go in bait, and you should do, particularly in winter, this is a bit of a godsend. It's a very good way of getting a high blend of esters in the right ratios into your bait. So check that out. It's called Ester Ace, and it is available on our website, which is baitbros.co.uk. That is it for the intro. Let's jump into this episode. I hope you enjoy. You having a little tipple tonight, Pete, or are you teetotaling it again?
Teetotal, mate. You say again. I can't remember the last time I didn't have a drink on the podcast, to be fair.
I don't think you've been drinking. In fact, we've had complaints. Have you seen these?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
We've had complaints that we're not getting as drunk and as rowdy as we used to. Yeah. I'm drinking tonight. You're not drinking, no?
No beers, mate. Nothing tonight.
Well, I haven't got any beer because just watching my beer intake at the minute. But I've got a Flor di Cana, probably pronouncing that wrong, Flor di Cana rum, 12 years old, carbon neutral certified. You're quite a rum man, aren't you? You're into your rums.
I went for a phase, didn't I? We had a lot of rum on the podcast for a while.
Yeah,
carbon neutral rum, mate. I mean, that's a marketing ploy if ever there was one.
With this brand, I went on their website just to kind of check them out, and yeah, they apparently this now sounds like an advert, doesn't it? This is not an advert, by the way. But if you work for Flor di Cana and you want to sponsor us, you're welcome to. But yeah, they give their employees money towards school and hospital bills, I think, which is really good, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so, mate. That's. I mean, most companies just like pay their employees, and then the employees can spend the money on what they like.
Are you suggesting they don't pay their employees very well?
I think they've just fucking nailed you on the marketing, and you think you're saving the planet on your carbon neutral rum, and you're giving some hospital treatment to some. Probably, yeah. Where's it come from? South American or something?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay. It's probably quite a noble cause, mate. They're probably... We started off with another court case coming our way.
I know. It's exactly what I was thinking. Well, anyway, I'm on the rum tonight, and I'm pairing it up with a Fentiman's ginger beer, which is this like Ponzi ginger beer stuff. I bought it. I was like, well, that's probably going to be healthier than just like, Tesco's own ginger beer or whatever. But it's not. Read the ingredients. Again, I'm probably should shut up, but read the ingredients. It's got glucose syrup in it, another type of just general sugar, don't know what type it is, and then pear juice concentrate, another list of glucose syrup. It's basically just a load of crap, but it's dressed up as like a healthier type drink. But anyway, I've got that. So ginger beer and rum. So you're not drinking? That's a bit boring. Have you been fishing? Can you entertain us with a fishing story, Pete?
Let me tell you my fishing tales, mate. No, is a short answer. I haven't done a great deal of fishing. Last Friday, I was all geared up. My wife's a teacher in a classroom. Basically, she was been having to isolate 'cause some of the kids had coronavirus. So she was isolating until she had a PCR test sort of come back, which is their school's policy. So on a Friday, I was really happy that I could go fishing. And then along the short of it, one of my daughters like just threw up everywhere out of nowhere, like emptied her stomach. So that delayed things, mate, which is a bit frustrating. So I was going to get to the lake with plenty of time, plenty of daylight hours left, which is a novelty for me this time of year. And then by the time I got down to the lake, it was just so busy. Every swim really taken. I could have squeezed in between a couple of people, but it's just not really doing it for me. After dark, realistically knowing I wouldn't have much of a chance of a bite, went to another lake thinking, if I could, this is now lazy, mate. So I'm bummed out at this point. Now I'm like lazy. There's another lake.
Sorry, mate. Sorry. You've gone to one lake and it was really busy, so you've moved on to another lake. To see if
moved on to another lake. Right. Yeah.
Shit.
And I only would have fished the other lake. This is going to sound awful. If the swim basically near the car park would have been free.
Oh, Peter.
Well, I didn't have my barrow, mate, because the other lake I don't need a barrow. This one you'd really need a barrow, and it was busy as well at the car park end, and I didn't want to lug all my gear in the dark, knowing that I've got to be up at sort of 7:30 to come home again. So there we are.
So you'd be up at 7 or 7:30? Would you not be awake by then anyway?
Yeah, but when you've got to pack down and it's wet and miserable, and it just wasn't filling me with excitement, mate.
Wow. It's interesting, isn't it? Like, if I'm on the bank, I get up earlier than I would do if I was at home. When I'm at home, I get up pretty freaking early.
You do, to be fair. Like, there's regularly you'll sort of like send me a message pre 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Which I'm just amazed by, because you never used to be that guy.
No, but I like it because you get up early, you can get through stuff. No one's really bothering you. Except for a few other dickheads that get up early and do work, but it's just nice. I like getting up early. I feel like I'm, well, I am. You get ahead. You can get some jobs ticked off real quick before other people even wake up. It just feels good.
Yeah, very Casey Neistat. I like it.
I have no idea who Casey Neistat is. Oh, he's a photographer, isn't he?
YouTuber, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I only know him because I like the what's that other YouTube channel that's really good? Peter McKinnon.
Okay.
You checked him out?
I've seen stuff, mate. I know I've heard the name. No,
should
not
do.
checked
Tommy
him out.
Bish loves Peter McKinnon. He's a bit of a fanboy. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so back to the story. Did you go fishing or not? You didn't go fishing, basically.
No, I went home with my tail between my legs.
Right.
I'm sulked about it. I've sulked all week, to be honest. I'm going to try my luck tomorrow night, but if the lake's busy, I'll just be going straight home again.
Yeah, I can't remember the last podcast that we did, that we aired. We've recorded a few podcasts. Well, we recorded a few that we've taken down, but we recorded another few as well that will be part of this mega episode, this like marathon 10-hour episode that I want to do, or we want to do. Pretty much I want to do. I'm making Pete do it, if I'm being honest. So we've recorded for that, but since we last actually published an episode, it was the drunk episode, wasn't it? Well, we did actually get quite drunk, despite people thinking saying we haven't really been getting drunk. I have been fishing since then. I can't remember. I don't think anything amazingly exciting's happened since then. I haven't fished for a few weeks, certainly, but I have been baiting up. It's that time of year, isn't it, when it's sort of, excuse me, I'm burping this ginger beer up, which actually is really nice after I've just shat all over it. It's actually a very nice drink. Quincy Lynn's ginger beer is really tasty. Yeah, it's the time of year. It's just like I want to keep the bait going in the water. I know I bait up all year round, but I think winter, like little and often baiting, it just really pays off. So yeah, I'm baiting up 4 times a week, keeping in touch with the water from visiting it, which is just, I mean, it's a 45-minute drive, hour and a half round trip. It's quite a commitment to do that 4 times a week.
Sorry, mate, just for my understanding, this isn't your syndicate water, no? Is this one of your club ticket?
No, it's not. It's a different water.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a different one. No, it is a syndicate. It's not the Oxfordshire syndicate though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a different one. It's somewhere I've got a ticket for, and I just fancy doing a little bit there over winter. To be honest, it's not like low stock or anything like that. I believe there's a couple of 100 fish in there, so decent stock level.
How big are we talking?
30 acres.
Oh, okay. So it's a fair size.
Decent size, yeah. About 200 carp in there, they think, but I think a lot of those are sort of smaller fish. So it's by no means a typical low stock water, which is why I sort of want to have a little bit of a bash. It's going to be better odds of catching in winter. Although again, I mean, you know, it's on paper, it's not really what you would choose for a winter campaign. It really isn't actually. It's very weedy. It's deep in places. It's going to be hard to locate the fish. So it's not great, but at the same time, there's 200 odd carp in 30 acres. So decent level of stock. So yeah, I'm giving that a bash. And yeah, it's just I've just been baiting that up and sort of letting my spot develop before I fish it. I always think it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. If you're baiting up, you're getting a spot going. If you start fishing it too soon, then you're going to catch fish, sure, but you're not going to get the most out of that spot. So I think sometimes it pays just to hold back a little bit, which is hard to do at this time of year because it is getting colder by the day, and obviously the chances of catching them are getting less and less as the water gets colder and colder. But still, I've held off. I think next week I'm going to swoop in for the kill after, I don't know, I think probably 5 weeks, no, 6, 7, probably nearly 7 weeks actually, of baiting it regularly. So yeah, hopefully something transpires. Actually, no, 6 weeks. 6 weeks of baiting. I shall keep you posted.
Well, mate, I've got a few questions now. What are you baiting with? Still autumn, and it's not got that cold yet. Have you had many frosts, mate? We've had a couple down here now this week.
We're having frosts every morning. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this week's the first week we've had a couple of frosts, 2 days in a row. Nothing again this morning. It's been reasonably mild, mate. Today's sort of been, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 degrees, I guess.
Yeah, it is mild up here as well. But it's always a little bit milder in Cornwall in the winter, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's still mild. But we've had frost for a couple of weeks now. More so in the last, same as you, sort of 10 days. But what have I been baiting up with? In the early weeks of it, I was using up some of my R1, which is Kenny Gates bait, which is a fish meal, quite high levels of fish meal in it, and squid meal as well, and some other bits, obviously. So yeah, I was sort of finishing off my load of that and splicing in my my winter bait, which is another one of Kenny Gates baits, which is his red spicy bird food type bait. But yeah, now I've sort of like switched it over to the red bird food. Now all the other stuff is gone, so I'm just baiting up with that, mate, to be honest.
No particle.
No particle.
No. Fair play, mate.
No,
you're investing in that water. You're spending some money there.
It's got to be done, mate.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the last few winters, I mean, last winter we didn't fish a great deal, did we, with lockdowns, etc.
Yeah.
But God, I get beaten up in the winter, mate, on these deep. I'm just used to just fishing deep pits, not really sort of doing a baiting campaign or anything, just like doing overnighters, etc. I really want to find just an easy sort of relatively sort of well stocked water. I'm sick of fishing pits with fucking deep sides. Margin fishing, it's dropped to 40 foot. I need to find somewhere different.
It's those old Cornish pits, isn't it? A lot of them are very deep. But I mean, the thing is, in winter, those kind of pits, if you could sort of give in to yourself and start to fish zigs, I can't do it, but if you can, I think, you know, there's some good fish to be had there, isn't there?
Yeah. The trouble is that there's rules, so sort of negating that. Adjustable zigs anyway, so you'd have to fish like quite a long fixed zig, which obviously isn't going to happen.
There was a certain little syndicate which we won't name that was a bit of a drive from your house. If you were going to join that, have you made any headway with that since we spoke?
No, mate, no. No, well, to be like, after the last sort of few podcasts and stuff, I don't know, had a little bit of a fishing break, to be honest.
Fair enough. Wow, I tell you what, now we've caught up with basically nothing. We've got quite a few questions. I put a little post on Instagram. It said that we were recording a Sam and Pete episode. We got quite a few questions. I think it's probably going to take us quite a while to answer these, and we're going to no doubt go off on some tangents. So shall we jump in and get started? Original Carp Hunter has asked us to cover base mix, recipes, attractors, and additives. Whew, that's a lot of content there to go through. Base mix recipes. We need to do this, and I've said this in reply to several messages. We get loads of messages about, you know, can you have a look at this base mix? Can you recommend a base mix recipe for us? We need to do an episode where we come up with a recipe, or we just give everyone one of our old recipes. We need to do that. I don't think this is the episode, but we do need to do that, don't we? Have like a bit of a podcast recipe.
We really do. We really do. The trouble is both of us, or neither of us, roll feed bait anymore, do we?
Not feed bait, and we very much specialise in hook baits and getting the most out of them. And it is, honestly, it's a totally different game. It really, really is. I would not formulate a feed bait the same way that I would formulate a hook bait, because it has to do a very different job. Now, obviously, I'm an advocate of using the same bait that you're using as feed baits as well when the scenario arises for it. But I think the real magic lies in just creating that hook bait, which is fed on with more enthusiasm than the free offerings. But anyway, that's like a separate chat. But yeah, we need to do this episode. We really, really do. The other part of his questions was, you know, to cover attractors and additives. Again, like this, like huge. Where do you start? Tough one, but I feel like we should answer it in some way, shape, or form.
Well, it's very open-ended, isn't it? So I'll tell you where my head is at regarding sort of feed bait, for example, if I was to roll my own. This last year I've sort of really used like the llama dust, and I don't want to sort of make this a sales pitch. But do you know what I want to do? And I really, really want to do this. And this is, I don't know, I've just got faith in this. I would love to just make a Billy Basic Samo Soya bird food bait with like 20% llama in, maybe a little bit of liver powder.
Yeah,
That is it. And just fish with the most basic boilie.
Well, the thing is, the llama dust isn't basic at all. How dare you fucking say that?
True. I suppose there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in that. But I know what you mean.
Could do well. I think it would do really well. Just a simple base mix of nothing else. What would I use for sort of like liquids and things? Honestly, I spoke about it a few times on the podcast. I've seen it now. Recently, it's been all over the internet and all over different bait threads and things like this. This year, I've spent a lot of time fermenting garlic and honey, raw honey, and I would use that as the only liquid in the bait as well.
Wow. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, we test all of our flavors and additives and things with a very basic soya semo mix, because obviously we want it to be very, very bland. That llama dust is just in a world of its own. I mean, you can just add a little bit of water to it, make it into a paste, and carp will eat that, and you know, they will stuff themselves full of it, even like that. But obviously, when you kind of like dilute it in effect by putting it with other ingredients, it still works phenomenally well. It's just one of those things that we discovered and played with and refined and added other things and tried some things that didn't work as well, and then we'd add something else in that worked even better. And it was like, it's been such a big find of ours, isn't it? We're obviously very, very proud of it, and it's lovely reading all these messages of that people are doing really well on it. But that being said, it is just an additive. It is just an ingredient. I think realistically, as good as it could catch with just in a soy sema mix, if you're feeding that bait en masse, I think you need to be adding something else in there to give back to the carp nutritionally. The llama dust is actually very nutritional. There is quite a lot of minerals and vitamins in there, and amino acids, which are great for the carp, and some other compounds as well. But I think realistically, you should be giving a little bit more of a well-rounded nutritional package to carp if you're feeding it en masse. I'm not saying you have to go, quote unquote HNV. Well, I think there's, you'd do well to add a little bit more substance in there, in my opinion. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is just where my head's at, mate. This is just where I'm. Just tickles my fancy, mate. It's what I want to do. This was all part of making bait. This is where I'm a little bit different, really. I would just take great pleasure in catching fish off flat bait. That's what I want to do next year. That's what I want to do.
See, winter, I think I said this on the last Sam and Pete episode. Winter, yeah, soya, semo, good quality milk powder, maybe a little bit of bird food. I would just have that, feed very little of it, and then do some kind of magic or try and do some magic with the flavor end and the additives. I'd probably, I'm not just going to name our products that I would use because it just sounds like an advert.
No,
but yeah, like that, absolutely. But I think if we're talking about a boiler that we're going to feed all year round, that's just me. Would you not want to just drop like a high quality milk in there, or a bit of pre-digested fish meal, something like that? Something a little bit more soluble in there?
Yeah. Well, the liver powder, mate. So there's a few sort of liver hydro powders that I'd be interested in. So obviously they're quite soluble.
Hydrolyzed liver powder?
Yeah.
What type? Yeah, okay. Not beef liver. It's just like chicken.
Yeah, well, beef liver's real hard to come by. I've got a sneaky feeling it's going to become more readily available.
Yeah, you can get beef liver powder, but it's not hydrolyzed.
Yeah, I've seen one floating around online, mate. At the moment, I don't know if it's sort of meant to be discreet or not, so I'll show you afterwards if you like.
All right, yeah.
But yeah, no, it's definitely something a little bit soluble. See, this is a thing as well, though, because this just like gets me. Yeah, obviously, mate, all my baits, and we have many, many bait chats, I get as much soluble stuff in there as I can. Short session angling, my baits fall off the hair quite often within 8 hours. It's just how I sort of design baits for my short session angling now. But like, I don't know, again, talking about llama dust, mate.
It's not overly soluble.
No. But I just got confidence in it.
Here's the thing, right? So when you look at a soluble ingredient, generally you're looking at its soluble properties for its functionality within the base mix, how it's gonna perform within the mix of ingredients to make up the feed bait, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you got a ball of paste, if you literally just got some of that llama dust, for example, added some water in, dropped it into a cup, you're going to get some clouding and some stuff coming off of it, but it's not just going to break down and be all soluble. If you compare that to, say, I don't know, something that's highly soluble, it's going to be worlds apart. But yeah, it doesn't mean that it's not that it doesn't have solubility. It doesn't mean that there aren't things coming off which attract carp, because I guarantee if you have a tank of carp or a pond of carp, I'm lucky enough to have both. You put that in there and try and hide it from them, or try and make it so they don't know it. Like, there's no way you can do that.
No,
No
exactly.
way.
Exactly.
So whilst solubility is obviously very, very important, I think sometimes we can get hung up on it. And perhaps to be honest, I'm more, when I'm saying this, I've probably got paste baits more in mind than other baits. Don't get me wrong, I think soluble ingredients in paste baits is awesome. It's very, very good. But as I've just said, you don't need to have, what you'd think of as very soluble ingredients on a paste bait to be attractive. You just don't.
You see, I find with the dust, I wouldn't want to use it at high levels in a boilie this time of year, because I just feel it locks up the bait, if that makes sense.
Because of the fat
It's
content.
got huge fat content.
Yeah.
Very greasy. Like I've rolled baits of it with I don't know, up to 20%. And it's incredibly oily, like incredibly.
Yeah,
Then you speak to Jason Ryder, for example, who's been on a few times, and he's sold at the moment on sort of fats in winter, isn't he?
Yeah, he'd use it. He would use it. But so let's say you wouldn't use it at 20% in winter, right? I wouldn't either, to be honest with you. I'm playing devil's advocate by saying maybe we're wrong in that, because, well, let's take it from this stance. Why wouldn't you use it at 20% in winter?
Because I feel this is the thing, you see, because I feel it locks up the bait. And that's just in my head. Since since doing this podcast and speaking to so many different people, it's I just don't know what's right and what's wrong anymore. It just opens everything up, doesn't it? People have got such wonderfully varying opinions, and I mean, I just think most things work. You've just got to have a little bit of confidence in your application when you do it.
You like Dean said, you let the carp tell you, But as I said before, if you make a paste ball out of water and the llama dust, that's mostly it is soluble, but it's not a very soluble bit of paste. But yet those carp will find that like that, and they will find it absolutely freaking delicious. It's insane.
I told you about my.
So how is that at 20%? Let me just finish, dude. At 20%, it's not really locking up the attraction, is it? Because even at 100%, it's extremely attractive.
Exactly.
Even in cold water.
I completely understand. I completely understand.
Yeah. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm the same as you. I wouldn't use it that high. In the winter. Then the other flip side is I don't think carp should be consuming high amounts of fat in the winter either. I really don't.
I'll tell you what, mate. What are your pond fish doing at the minute? How are they behaving?
They've slowed down somewhat compared to, a month ago. They're still eating several times a day. We feed them. They're still active. They're still feeding with gusto, depending on what I put in. Obviously, hopefully it goes without saying, I'm not constantly testing like different things on my fish. I let them have a normal diet as well. Or should I say a staple diet. But yeah, still eating lots, still pooping lots, still active, mate.
You and Katie still like rolling your own feed for them and stuff?
To be honest, no. We mostly give them a staple diet. So we give them some floating food, which is high levels of wheat germ in it, and there's lots of other. It's a complete food. As well as that, I feed them Kenny Gates Receptor Red Spice, the R1, and then the other stuff they eat is all of the test stuff that I'm putting together, which is usually, unless I'm testing something in a paste, it's usually on a soya semo base mix. And then the other additive or flavour or whatever it might be added onto it. Obviously, I feel that's the best way to test things. But yeah, they're still eating lots. I mean, it's so I've also got an inside tank. Obviously, I'm feeding that still more than. It's interesting to see the gap move further and further apart, because when you've got pond fish, obviously they're slowing up. But I've noticed it more this year because I've had a tank inside as well, if you see what I mean. You kind of see that gap of how much they're eating increase. So yeah, they're definitely eating less, but they're still eating regularly. And they're still eating with some, decent amount of enthusiasm.
Yeah, how's your quarantine fish?
Fine. Yeah, so I had a fish that unfortunately was a little bit poorly. Doing really well, thriving, really healthy, vibrant. All issues gone. It was bleeding into its fins. All of the blood's gone now. It's all vibrant. Its colours have come back. It's as active as it should be, and yeah, it's doing great. Doing really, really good.
Yeah, good. It's something we've spoken about in the past, that is, isn't it? Maybe for Bait Bros releasing something in a completely sort of non-for-profit sense, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, you've tasked me with putting my thoughts down, didn't you?
Yeah, how's that going?
I actually listened to you for once, and I really have.
Well, we've spoken about it. You've spoken about it on the podcast, haven't you? Sort of like the stress that the fish is under and what they would naturally sort of look for their body to recover from the stress, etc. So we were looking to maybe put something together as a bait additive, not necessarily as an attractant, but for something that would be purely nutritional and help the fish from an immune level. How's that sort of coming together, mate? We've got a few ingredients that we had penciled down anyway.
Yeah, and some of them are in other things. The llama dust and an upcoming product as well. How's it coming along? It's complex. I'll be honest with you, it's really complex because it's not like you're working off of one kind of part of it. It's not like you're just working on a flavour being really attractive, or you're not just working on even a pop-up, right? It has to do several things, doesn't it? But whether it's because I'm not used to doing it or whether it is because it is actually just much more complex, I'm struggling to get an amalgamation, like a mix of lots of different ingredients that will all do different things and complement without certain things working against other areas, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and like each ingredient can do something in their own right, but to actually put them in one product, you're never going to get the ratio correct. That's
what I mean, and it might affect something else adversely,
Yeah, it'd be a real nice thing to do, wouldn't it? Just a little bit of...
Yeah, cool. Well, I would... This is the other problem is I'd want it to be perfect. I'm a bit of a perfectionist anyway. Or naturally I am, but I really try work not to be. So... That's the other thing. I would want it to be like really tip top, and I just think it's going to take a hell of a lot of work, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm willing to do it. Good thing to do, and that might be one product that might change over time, because it's not like we've been playing with a flavour and with like everything that we do, like we have many different permutations of it. Like, so we'll try it with something else, then we'll try it with this. And obviously it's all theorized, kind of like looks good on paper, so to speak. But you never really know until you put it into that flavor or that powder or whatever it is and try it. It's going to be harder with this, and I think that's another reason why it's so freaking hard, is because we're not going to have that direct feedback of whether it's doing the carp good or not. Now, obviously, there's, generic papers out. Well, not generic. Generic's not the right word, but there's papers out there on carp nutrition and what they need and things like that. But really, you need to piece a lot of the puzzles together to figure out what they need. And also, you need to figure out what they likely coming across in their environment. This is the other thing. If a certain nutrient is very important to them, but they're getting shitloads of it in pretty much every lake in the country, there's no point adding that into the product, is there? So it's just, it's going to take more work, and it's not like you can put it into a bait, feed it to the carp, and then it's like got this amazing response, because it's not an attractive thing, or it's not a taste enhancing thing. It's for their health, which is harder to quantify, isn't it? Really, you're never going to know unless you can control all variables, water quality, etc., and you're blood testing the carp and measuring their all sorts of different biometric measures. You're never going to know. So it's just going to take a lot of work to get our best idea of what that supplement would look like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it's very exciting. Great thing to do, like you say.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. So going back to the question, we had base mix recipes. We've sort of spoken about my Billy basic ideas that I just want to play around with.
Well, we haven't really. What you said. It's demo, put a bit of milk in there. That's not a recipe. Like, please don't think that's what we're suggesting.
No, this is the trouble, mate. I've got so boring with it. I love the idea of simplicity.
Let me ask you a question, right?
Let's
just try and answer this question somewhat without going on too long, because we've got a lot of questions to get through. Let's say you were going to build just a kind of what I would call and what you would call a basic fish meal, right? Just a basic fish meal, which is probably very similar to a lot of other fish meals out there, but it's good nutritional quality. What you're going to have? You're probably going to have 25-30% LT94 fish meal, right?
Yep.
You're probably going to have somewhere between 8 and 10% pre-digested fish meal.
Yep.
Probably going to have a bird food in there.
Yeah.
Probably going to have a bit of soyo and sema in there as well to aid rolling.
Yeah. Chuck 5% WPC80 in there.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit more WPC80 as well. Yeah, exactly. And then what? Probably, look, this is what everyone does, so I'm not necessarily suggesting this. Then you'd probably want a little bit of yeast in there, brewer's yeast. Or if you want to be a bit more modern, Brocacel. Yeah? Like that's pretty much how most of these things are made, aren't they?
Yeah.
How many people do you think roll their own fish meal, and around about 30 to 40% of that mix consists of LT94 and CPSP, pre-digested fish meal? Probably most people's 30 to 40% of the mix is comprised of those two ingredients, right? And then they've probably got a bird food in there as well. And they've probably got some yeast. So, like, and there's nothing wrong with that. Guess what? A lot of people probably, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I would imagine a lot of people's mixes kind of look like that. It's for good reason. It works. Wow, it's pretty much accounting for all of the amino acid requirements of the carp. It's very attractive. It works well in a boilie. So there's good reason why everyone uses it. Nothing wrong with that. But am I wrong? Is that not what most people do for a fish meal?
I think that's what most most of the guys who, if you put that question to a lot of the guys who listen to this podcast, they would agree with you 100%. Yeah. And I think that very sort of, I would consider that now a very basic recipe, wouldn't you?
Very basic, yeah.
And it's a fantastic recipe as well. It's going to catch fish all day long. And I think that is probably more nutritionally better and a better quality sort of bait than a lot of commercial companies would do nowadays.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like you say, I mean, it's not cheap. Fish meals get more and more expensive. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to move on just because there's a lot of questions to answer. But let me ask you a question. Let's flip it around slightly. Let me go back to this question. Base mix recipes, attractors and additives. Okay, Pete, how about this? Choose one base mix ingredient, kind of powdered ingredient, one attractor and one additive that you would find it hard to make a bait without. Something that you'd really want to use. I know it's going to depend on the time of year and what kind of bait, but let's just roll with it.
Oh, mate, it would just be like a bird food. I don't know, some CLA. EMP, mate. I love EMP.
So you'd have a bird food in pretty much any bait you rolled, yeah?
Pretty much, yeah.
You like EMP, okay. An attractor?
Is this powdered? Liquid?
Don't know, it doesn't say. It can be anything.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate. I'm
just answer it.
Literally intrigued. All right, honey. I'm into my honey right now.
That as an attractor?
Yeah.
Okay, as an attractor.
You'd call that an additive then, I'm guessing, by your tone of voice.
Well, I don't know, mate. This is.
Mate, I think it's a blurred. It's a very blurred. Attractors and additives is a similar sort of thing.
Yeah, I think not really, because our upcoming product is more of a taste type product. We'll leave it there.
Okay. Yeah.
Rather than an attraction, you know.
Yeah.
It's working more off the gustatory response of the carp. But I mean, honey, yeah, it's working off gustatory treat. Yeah, it's working off attraction as well, of course. I mean, it's got fructose and glucose in there, which are both attractive to carbs. So yeah, I get what you mean, mate. I get what you mean. So that would be your attractor, would it, honey? What about additives?
Oh, mate, I don't know. You put me on the spot.
I know what you'd actually use. It would be llama dust, but again,
oh no,
let's pick something else.
You see, I tell you what, I've been using now a liquid attractor. I guess I would call this. You could call it. I don't know if it's an attractor or an additive, mate. I think they're the same thing. But this year I've been using Beta Stim from Bath anyway.
Oh, have you? Is that because of what Callum said in his podcast episode with us?
No. No, I've been using it for, say, this year. Last year, I've been using it in my hook baits, pop-ups and stuff. And you can use it as a soak afterwards. I don't think it's overpowered.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the episode, but I asked him what he feels his most underrated product is, and he said Beta Stim. He sung its praises. Yeah, he gave me a bottle as well.
Did he?
Yeah.
Fucking hell, I had to buy mine, mate.
Did you?
Bastard.
I don't think he likes you, that's why.
Not many do.
Mate, he's saying some stuff.
Won't
repeat it on here.
Yeah, I didn't get invited up there.
No. That was actually they specified that.
Yeah, I know.
They were like, we'll do the interview, but just as long as Pete doesn't come up.
Yeah. I'll be on the scrounge.
Yeah.
Cool, right. Now that we've slated my character, mate. Next question. Do you want me to go for it?
Yeah, it is from James Benstead. If you could pick flavour and essential oil hookbait combo for all seasons. Oh, man. It's a good question. I like it. But that's a tough one. That's like, if I could pick one flavour and essential oil hookbait combo for all seasons. I know what it is. I know what my choice is. But what about you, Pete? I'll let you go first.
No, I'm thinking.
I'll go first then.
This is where I struggle because I very rarely would use one for all seasons. So
I know.
Tough call.
Exactly what I was going to say. It is a tough call. I tell you right now what it would be. And again, this just sounds outrageous. Sounds like I'm just naming my own product. But I would pick the Strawbermo. And let me tell you why, right? That we release stuff not just to release, like we're releasing things that we think are really freaking good, or that we think are missing from the marketplace. So I know on one hand you could listen to this and be like, bloody hell, it's just trying to sell their shit. We're not. We're really not. But that's what I would pick, and I'll tell you why. And there's a little blurb on this on the website, I'm sure. I put that kind of combination together because I feel it will tick so many boxes. It's the only flavour that's had an EA and a oil base. In fact, I think it's the only mixed base flavour on sale ever, I think. Someone can correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure not. Anyway, if not that, I'm damn sure no one's put an EA with an oil-based flavour. You're going to get a very prolonged attraction from that. So it's going to be active for many, many hours. Obviously, the oil-based flavour, which has got a lot of essential oils in, even before we add in extra bergamot, which is a very specific type of bergamot, which I'll talk about in a minute. That's going to leak out a lot slower from the bait. Not as slow as just pure oil would, because obviously there's a lot of different compounds on top of that. There's esters in that flavour, or that component, that part of the flavour. There's lots in that flavour. It's going to have a very slow leak off, and it's going to be very, very efficient. It's also going to be very, very good in silt. It's going to punch through the silt, some people would say. Or some people would say it would repel the silt. So, sometimes baits can really take on the silty kind of smell. I don't think it matters too much, to be honest. I don't think it matters as much as some people believe. But I think it's still a factor. And if you use that flavour, that'll overcome that very, very efficiently. It's going to have a long window of attraction. It's going to be attractive on all substrates. And it is very, very freaking good in the summer. Very, very, very good in the winter as well. I don't know. It just tick a lot of boxes for me. So for me, I would use Strawbermo. If I wanted to go somewhere else and I didn't want to buy from baitbros.co.uk, I would go and I would do a similar thing. I would get an EA-based flavour, which are very rare, which is why we do a lot of EA flavours, and I'd mix it with an oil-based flavour. I really, really would. Maybe I'd put a touch of PG in there as well, but I probably not. And then an essential oil on top. Essential oil-wise, if I was to pick one essential oil, as I say, we use bergamot. We use doTERRA bergamot, which is hideously expensive. We use that in the strawbermo. If I was just to pick one essential oil,
I know what mine would be.
Mine would... Damn, I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could... I think it would be cinnamon leaf for me. That's something I've used for so many years as well. But yeah, cinnamon leaf essential oil. If I had to pick one, I wouldn't really want to. But yeah, cinnamon leaf essential oil for me. And then I blend that up with a EA flavour and then a slower releasing flavour, such as an oil-based flavour. Fractionated coconut oil would be a great base for it. What about you, Pete? I've waffled on and bored the shit out of everyone.
For me, mate, I thought about the essential oil. So an essential oil I'd use all year round, basically. With confidence, for me, that'd be black pepper, mate.
Really?
Yeah, definitely.
I just wouldn't.
Why?
I think it's great. It's in one of our flavours, obviously.
Stop it. Go on, carry on.
I didn't even think about that until you said. Yeah, it sounds awful, doesn't it? Yeah. I was basically saying, I don't think it's super shit. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put it in one of our flavours that we developed. But yeah, no, I just wouldn't. I think black pepper oil is a little bit overrated and overused.
No.
Ask John Baker what he thinks about black pepper oil.
Yeah?
Yeah, he'll preach to you. Yeah.
Okay. So, I've got a lot of confidence in black pepper oil. Used it for a number of years. It's a go-to for me. So yeah, I'd use that all year round happily. So then, to pick a flavour with that, I would just go for a Scopex or a dairy cream, something along those lines. Condensed milk, nice creamy black pepper bait. If I was to use a flavour essential oil combo for all seasons, that'd be me done. I've actually just knocked up some pop-ups, mate. With our creamy A, some God fuck, some clove oil and black pepper.
Yeah,
classic.
Which, funnily enough, is similar-ish to another one of our flavours, isn't it? Which isn't on an EA base. But yeah, there's something about the black pepper and the creamy flavours, the lactones, that it does work well together. I agree with you. I know what you mean. And this is the thing. Like, Pete would go with a very different combo from what I would go with. It's like neither one of us is wrong or right. Like, if we were still fishing together, I'm sure we'd both, catch roughly the same still. It's just personal preference,
So if we just expand the question, I know this is where we waffle on, mate. So if we were just to expand on that a little bit, so if you could pick a flavour essential oil then for like the warmer months and the colder months, what would you do for the warmer? What would you do for the colder?
Well, this is where I'm going to show that I'm a bit of a slave to fashion, but I think this is probably due to confidence. But in the summer and spring, I would go more towards animal-based flavours, with a bit of a fruity back note, personally. So I'm not going to name our flavours because it just sounds like an advert, but I would actually use our flavours even if they weren't mine. Let's just say I want to use someone else's. For spring and summer, I would use something like John Baker's crab and a touch of his plum in the back there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that would be my choice. I'd also, I'm a fan of esters, particularly in the colder months, but I think spring, esters still an absolute winner. So I'd probably put some esters in there as well. Essential oil wise, on top of that, I mean, that's a combo that would work well with a lot of different essential oils. I think for me, I would probably go with the cinnamon leaf for that.
So for me, spring, summer, crayfish thermidor, I think is a brilliant flavour. I'd happily use that, combine it with a garlic EO. Winter time, we spoke about it loads of times. But I'd use my blackcurrant and tutti combination. And if I had to put in it, I know you laugh at me for this, but I've used it a lot in the winter, and I've used Olbas oil to complement that combo as well.
It's a golden oldie.
It works, mate. It works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Next question. You want me to read it? From JH13.
Go for it.
Winter tips and tactics. Would be interested to hear about the best captures / campaigns you've both had.
Yeah. A lot of it's about bait for me. Pete just mentioned his favourite winter combo, which we now produce, and that's what I'm using this winter on my own hook baits, to be honest, mate. And as I have touched on it, I suppose, yeah, with the baiting up. I think baiting up is absolutely crucial. I think you want to keep that water churning over in winter, in the colder months. Like, if there's nothing going, like, those carp will sit in a dead weed bed and do absolutely nothing. But it almost seems like if you keep them feeding, right from the off as it gets colder, there's almost like it seems like there's that glimmer for them. Like, oh, I'll get out of bed just to go and eat that, I guess. Like, that's how I think of it in my head. But I think it's so important to keep the bait going in the winter. It's got to be the right kind of bait. Don't feed them the wrong type of stuff. My preference is fairly low protein, higher carbohydrate, and sort of lowish fat content in the winter. Do you want to give your opinions on that kind of side of it, and then we'll talk about our best captures / campaigns in the winter?
Yeah, I don't know, like you say, I've mentioned my sort of like my little pop-up combo. Tactics, like you say, if you can keep bait going in, then you're onto a winner, especially if you can hold fish in a certain area. I think you're onto a winner. I really think the more the older I get, and my fishing time is sparse, I really think actually selecting a water that's suitable for your angling in the winter months is so key. You want to get to a lake which you want to fish, you want to catch some fish. I certainly do now. I've not caught a huge number of fish the last few years, so actually if I want to go fishing in the winter now, I want to catch a few fish. So I think picking your water is key. Getting somewhere that you're going to be motivated to fish. You're going to, get there at dark. You're happy to set up. That sort of thing. One of the other no, we'll move on to it in a bit, but yeah, motivation. So if you can pick the right water, you're motivated to be there. Massively important.
Yeah, I'll flip it though. Like you're saying about getting there dark and doing all that sort of stuff. Last winter, we couldn't do nights, could we, for a good part of it? But last winter, I got a winter ticket on a very well-known lake that's done very big fish in the past. And yeah, I did 2 nights on it. The rest was just very short day sessions. And I actually did all right. Did pretty good. A lot of people don't catch in winter, and I managed to get quite a few out. So I don't think you need to be, if you're struggling to be putting in the nights, putting in the hours, I don't think you necessarily need to. I think you can, if you get things right, and it tends to be in winter, there's a very short feeding spell. Now, if that's in the hours of darkness, then yeah, you got to do the night. If that's in hours of daylight, you don't need to do the night, but you need to know when those feeding spells are, in my experience. And annoyingly, they tend to change. They will change across the course of the winter. And yes, of course, the only real way to know is to be fishing 24 hours, and then you kind of get an idea, don't you, if you've got everything right. But I think once you do establish, oh, okay, like this is the time where I'm most likely to get the bite, you can just rock up for a few hours, have one out, and then bugger off back to the pub or into the warm home. Like, I've done that quite a lot, and to be honest, I kind of foresee this winter's angling for me going exactly the same. So I don't think it's always a case of like you finish work and it's freaking dark, you got to set up in the dark and it's all misery. I don't think it has to be like that. I think put in the work, figure out when bite time is, and then capitalise on that. That's the only thing I'd add to that.
Sound advice, mate. Yeah, that was a good little, like, talk of winter campaigns. You almost campaigned it that late last winter, didn't you?
I did. Yeah,
you were certainly, turning up, breaking the ice to bait up and all sorts, weren't you?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, you got to put the work in. I mean, I used to fish a lot. I used to do quite a few nights when I was down in Cornwall fishing with you, wouldn't I, Pete?
Mm.
Well, I wasn't fishing with you a lot of the time, but we used to fish the same waters. And I used to do a lot more time then than I do now. I do very minimal time now, which I think it's even more important for me to make the effort to go and bait up or just walk around, see if I can see anything. But yeah, last winter I didn't bait it as much as I wanted to because I couldn't for one reason or the other. I couldn't fish it as much as I wanted to for one reason or the other. But yeah, it was a winter campaign nonetheless. Didn't go exactly how I'd want to in terms of my time spent on the banks, COVID and things like that. But yeah, I got the result I wanted, to be honest with you. I had a few of them out. It went by better than I could ever expected, given the amount of limited time I had on there. But I wouldn't say it was like my best winter campaign. Far from it, mate. Far from it.
Mm.
No. Like, when I hear that question, I'm sure I've had more impressive sounding experiences and stuff, but the one that stands out to me that I guess I'm the most proud of in winter as a winter capture is the target fish that I was after at the Pads Lake.
You see, was that winter, was it?
That was dead of winter, mate. Brassic. Okay. Yeah. I'll send you the photo later if you want. It was a long time ago. It was a fucking long time ago, so it's hard to remember. But yeah, it was. And a lot of that was because, again, it comes back to bait. I caught it on the fruit specials, which I worked really hard on that. It wasn't that... What do most people do making a hook bait? Well, you choose a couple of flavours you like the sound of, maybe an essential oil, maybe some powdered additives, maybe an amino acid, maybe a bit of betaine, citric acid, bang it together, and that's that. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not meaning to sound like a dickhead when I say that, but I really thought these hook baits out, which I called fruit specials, or fruit aminos I called them actually. And yeah, it just worked. This fish, I really wanted it, really wanted it. I actually did very well on that lake, but I somehow couldn't catch this fish. Probably took me 10 months to catch it, Pete, something like that, which isn't terrible, I suppose.
Do you know what? I actually think it's longer than that.
No, sorry, it was a year and 10 months. Way off there. We fished that place for 2 years, didn't we?
Pretty much, mate.
Yeah, sorry. No, yes, hideous. I remember now. This was 15 years ago, maybe, something like that. Yeah, a year and 10 months it took me to catch that fish. Long time.
Do you know what? I don't think I have fished and put as much time and effort into a lake, probably because I've got rose-tinted glasses here, as much as I did with that place.
You definitely have.
You reckon? I don't think I have, mate. I was into that place.
You did love it, to be fair, but yeah, I think you have.
Yeah, maybe. That was home. That was the home of fishing for a long time. And you say we were sort of young men, weren't we? Sort of like idiots. Just had some good times on there.
Oh yeah. And as well, not getting too deep here, but yeah, I went through a lot of like personal struggles in my life whilst I was fishing there. And in a way, it like got me through a lot, if that makes sense. I know that sounds probably really odd and bit soppy to a lot of people listening.
To flip that as well, it was probably the root of some of your issues as well.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of time spent fishing.
I spent a lot of time there, but I was like, in a way, I think, oh man, that's like actually really getting to me. I don't know, but this is not the right chat to be having on the podcast. But I'll just say it because I've started. I think a lot of time when we, spend a lot of time fishing, we'll like really throw everything into it. Certainly for me, anyway, it's like really what I'm doing there is sometimes it is certainly in the past, not now because I'm kind of grown up, but running away from things. And I think you look at some of these historical anglers that have just caught so well in certain areas and they've just like seemed to be on top of everything. The rest of their life is probably falling to shit, partially because of all the time they're spending, and probably partially they're spending so much time fishing because the rest of their life is not a great place to be. And certainly for me, for a long time, the rest of my life was not a good place to be. So my fishing life was a bit of a sanctuary from that. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I do, mate. I really do. It's part of me. It just wants to like laugh and be like, "This is therapy with Sam and Pete." To anyone listening, I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
it's got quite heavy. But no, mate, no. Like we spoke about this lake many times on the podcast, and I think fishing there, mate, really sort of cemented our friendship, didn't it? Really, our relationship.
I guess so. Yeah, I guess so. That place was the reason that I named my daughter Lily, because of all the lilies.
Yeah.
It's
like, mad, isn't it? Oh, it's mad when you think of stuff like that.
Yeah, I always tell her that, and she's like, okay.
Yeah. You're a freak.
Doesn't get it. Yeah.
No.
It's lovely, isn't it, Lily? Yeah. Maybe when she's older. But yeah. Yeah, great memories. Anyway, I've gone off on a tangent. I'm getting all morbid.
I think,
almost getting tearful over here. Fucking almost shit together.
Should we change it back or change the question?
Yeah.
You ready? So, Throwback Carp, who's a long-term listener and supporter of the podcast. I'm right in saying that, aren't I? That name crops up a lot.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
So, the drive to go winter fishing. About 12 miles?
45 minutes, mate. The drive to go winter fishing. Good question. Like, for me, this year, it's a bit different because this 30-odd acre lake, it's not got any carp in that. There's some lovely fish in there. Lovely fish. Very different from the norm. But there's nothing in there that I would, like, set my stall out for. Nothing in there that I'd be like, I'm fishing here until I catch that one. So there's no real targets in there. So harder to get motivation in from a water like that compared to a different water. Like I mentioned on the last answer to the last question, like if there's a water I'm fishing in the winter and it's like I'm after that specific fish, like in many ways I'm more motivated in the winter because it's what's that saying? I can't remember the saying. But basically, if you catch your target in the winter, like that's pretty much the biggest achievement you could get, right? I mean, when is it I'm talking about the dead of winter, the balls of winter. Not fricking like end of November. That's not winter. I'm talking January, something. If you catch your target fish in January, like that's tough going. You catch it in spring. No, it's spring, isn't it? Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's like it's a lot easier, isn't it? So I'm driven by that. I'm driven by that fish, thinking that could be on my mat. I could be holding that fish, admiring that fish in the dead of winter. What an achievement that would be. So that's where I get my drive from. I think this guy, I might be wrong. Apologies if I've got this wrong. I think he fishes huge, great expanses of water in Canada. And he probably doesn't have target fish because it's a different type of carp fishing over there. So for that kind of scenario, I don't know. Harder to find that motivation. Yeah, for sure. It is. Another thing that I'd be motivated by is a snow pick with a carp. I've caught carp on days where it snowed, but very mildly, bearing in mind I've done most of my carp fishing in Cornwall, and it doesn't really snow there. But that would be a motivator to me. Like if I got up tomorrow, or wow, let's just say in 2 months' time, and there was loads of snow outside, and it was a fishing day, I would be very freaking enthusiastic to go fishing, because I would love a shot of a carp in the snow. I'd love that. You got any thoughts on that, mate?
Yeah, snow carp, I think, was definitely one of the things I'd like to tick off my list. Trouble is down here, when it doesn't snow, like you say, and when it does snow, you're fucking snowed in. The infrastructure down here is crap. I don't know if Cornwall's got many road gritters, but everything seems to stop when it snows, so you can't get anywhere. I've got a lake though, that it sounds ridiculous. It's a little bit of a drive. It's full of some really beautiful, pretty little fish. It's quite shallow. And I've often thought, like, when I get the opportunity, when I get some snowy weather, that's the place I'd go to try and get my snow carp picture. So that's quite cool. I've got a little plan in mind, I guess.
Yeah. Can you say where it is or not?
Mate, it's a little day ticket. It's a little farm. It's a farm pond, mate.
Do I know it?
No, you don't. No.
Don't.
And it's ottered, mate. There's certainly otters on there, and it has been for a lot of years, from sort of what I gather talking to people. And this is just talking to people who would refute that there was ever otters there, if that makes sense. But there's always sort of like blames of like the Polish or whatever fish kills, and fish have been missing from this lake for years and years, and it gets restocked and that sort of thing. But there's lots of really old little scaly fish in there. Some of them a little bit beaten up with a bit of otter damage, but there's some really beautiful fish in there, so that's where I'd go for my snow pick. It's out towards Saltash kind of way. Okay. In the county still. So yeah, that's what I'd like to do. I think the drive to go winter fishing, I think nowadays as I get older, I like the idea of a little bit of comfort on the bank. Last time I went fishing, the weather was absolutely atrocious, and I took my bivvy instead of my brolly, and it was just nice. Like, it was cold, you know how it is when it's just full of condensation. In a brolly, like, your bed chair's all touching the sides, your pillow's soaking wet, and just taking the bivvy actually was a nice touch. Plenty of space. I think I'll probably sort of go for a little bit of comfort this year as I get older. So you're a hardcore brolly angler, aren't you, mate?
I haven't owned a bivvy, for a very long time.
No, brolly snob, mate. You sort of look at people with bivvies and you think, like, you feel a little bit sorry for them.
No, not at all. Why would I feel sorry for them?
That's just how your head works.
Definitely.
You're just like, oh, bivvy angler.
No, I mean, it's... Look,
if you see someone with a ground sheet, that goes through your head, doesn't it? Straight away.
Can't have women without men.
True. So yeah, a little bit of comfort. So, like, you're saying that you're not going to do many nights, you don't think, this winter. Do you think maybe if you had a little bit of comfort, if it wasn't so sort of grim? I mean, you've got the smallest brolly known to man, and you're not the smallest guy. Do you think, like, a little bit of comfort, you'd be a bit more sort of tempted to do a couple of nights?
Not at all.
No.
I like the fact that brollies are just easy, quick, simple to put up. I really do. It's like, I don't have any problems with bivvies for people that are listening. I just, like, at the moment, I would literally do a very short session. Maybe 24 hours would be the longest sort of thing. I just don't think a bivvy would warrant it. And would I want one? No, not really. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not all like, oh, Mr. Hardcore. I'm not out in winter in a frickin' summer sleeping bag. I've got a winter sleeping bag. I've got base layers on. I'm dressed up. I'm sensible now. When I was younger, it was just like, I don't know how I did it for a start, but I would go out fishing in winter in, like, not appropriate clothing and be absolutely fine. But yeah, I'm older, I'm softer. So I'm definitely prepared for the winter months. In fact, I think last winter we were talking about onesies, and we had all that revelation, didn't we? Which we shared with our listeners. But yeah, and I still do that. Yeah, I take the warmth seriously in the winter. But no, I like day sessions in the winter, and on the river as well, for different species other than carp. I love, getting all my winter clothing on and going out, walking the river, looking for some spots. That's really, really cool and exciting. Same as on a lake, I like doing day sessions in the winter and just being out in the cold, crisp air. In the same respect, I love doing the nights. Again, the cold, crisp night air in winter is, really, it's a beautiful thing, Sat outside your brolly and just sort of listening to the very few sounds of the winter night air. Everything seems to be even that bit quieter in winter, doesn't it? I absolutely love it. Everything's just crisp. The air's crisp. You can feel it entering and leaving your lungs. I love all that stuff. So no, I wouldn't do more nights if I had a bivvy. Don't feel it's warranted, mate, for my type of fishing. If I was going to do a week, then yeah, I guess a bivvy would make sense, but I'm not doing short sessions.
Well, I'll tell you what, wouldn't you feel more confident in doing day sessions through the winter than you would a quick overnighter?
Depends on the water. But yeah.
Yeah. Can you remember, mate, little memory lane? We spent a little bit of time on Blackrock down south. Can you remember that?
Yeah, probably shouldn't have named it, but yes, I do.
And can you remember I came down to see you one time and it was cold, like real cold, and you tucked yourself away. It was one of those lakes.
Oh, Pete, lost you.
Yeah, muted. Hang on, I'm back. So, sorry, yeah, it's one of those lakes. Probably shouldn't have been there, I guess. You tucked yourself away sort of around a corner. You had to wade, didn't we, to get round to the swim.
You had to wade to the waist to get round the part of the lake where you wouldn't be seen.
Yeah, it was brilliant, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I remember going to see you, mate, and you were not equipped for the cold at all. You looked ill. Your 5-litre water bottle was just completely frozen solid. I think I come down with a kettle and some gas because you didn't have any. You didn't even have like a kettle or anything with you. Well, not just up a brew.
I don't remember it at all.
Oh, do you not? No. Yeah, you didn't have anything. You just because you travelled light, obviously. It's a mission to get round there. You had your crate of beer, mate. Your crate of beer was right, but no
yeah,
kettle.
I did, mate. But it was in my sleeping bag, so it didn't freeze as well.
Probably.
No, I don't remember that, mate. But it doesn't surprise me. Yeah, I was a bit haphazard, wasn't I, when I was younger?
Yeah, mate, I was sketchy. I was like breaking the ice on my waders, trying to get round to you.
Yeah,
good times.
Yeah, good times. It's like, don't you think it's those hard times that? Well, obviously, I don't remember a lot of things, but it's those hard times that you remember with the fondest kind of memory, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
It's like when it's out, it's real. In the that Facebook group, which is called Old School Carp Society. I don't like Facebook groups. I don't really like Facebook. That's actually a very good group full of some real cool old school stuff. I think it was someone put a winter pickup the other day of, dead of winter, snow and stuff. And it's like, you're going to remember those days, those nights, those sessions over, ones in spring, summer, autumn. I just think you are. And it's like when you're all real cold and you're warm, you're huddling around your stove, and it's like those are the kind of memories. Whilst at the time it might feel unpleasant, that's what you're going to remember fondly.
Yeah, absolutely. Frost on the sleeping bag, that sort of thing.
Yeah,
lovely, cool.
Next question.
So Cheeky Dinks. He's a Cornish chap, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah, I believe he's been messaging you on Instagram. It's a chap, I think it's a lad called Joe or Joey, who I've met a few times. Liquids in cold water. I think liquids in cold water are important. I like the idea of having a lot of attraction and not a lot of food in the winter months. So you're left with just a hook bait.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it depends on how he's talking about using them. If it's like liquids in with your eggs with a base mix, or whether it's liquids purely in the swim. What does the question say?
Liquids in cold water.
That's it.
I'm going to say liquids in the swim.
Liquids in the swim. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've shared my super soaker trick before, haven't I? Which got like divided opinion. A lot of people thought it was genius. Some people thought it was stupid. Honestly, freaking works very well. But yeah, if you can release liquids into the water column any time of the year, it's a great move. It's a good thing to do. In terms of choosing the right liquid in winter, which I'm guessing is his question really. Yeah, you want to get the right ones. I mean, obviously oil-based ones are not going to behave fantastically in the winter, although there's caveats to that. Again, I mentioned flavors in the winter. Oil-based, they can actually work very, very well. But yeah, I think it's always a good method. I think winter, when the carp are just not going to eat as much, if you can get that kind of attraction in the water column in the form of liquids, and then have your bait near it, great tactic. Fish singles, but fish singles with a load of liquid dispersed in the water around them. All of a sudden, that's got the attraction of a bed of bait, but there's no bait there other than your hook bait. I think that's a fantastic move. So yeah, absolutely. How you do that and how you deploy that is going to be water dependent. What do you think on that, mate?
Yeah, I think I like the idea of it. I like the idea, like you say, of a lot of attraction in the water and not a lot of feed. So the one thing they're going to, we know that they don't sort of feed as much in the winter, in the cooler months. So yeah, I think it ties in very well with winter fishing. It's the Mark Holmes canister trick.
I was just going to say, someone told me that Mark Holmes does some kind of thing where he has liquids leaking off over a period of time. Do you know what that is, or?
Yeah, I think we spoke about it. I've got a real thing. Sort of last winter, I remember I was on the bank. We did a podcast, got asked a similar question. I think we spoke about liquids, and I actually couldn't remember Mark Holmes' name. So one of the Metley guests, one of the listeners messaged in with his name. It was Mark Holmes, but what he's spoken about in the past is almost like a jerry can or something that you could fill with liquid, drill holes in it, and then you can put it into the lake and let the liquid sort of spill out over time.
Right.
Yeah, something along those lines.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it really, mate. The next... Oh, no. Okay, so Weedy Waters has messaged in. Winter bait additives.
I'll tell you what, why don't you answer that whilst I go for a piss?
Yeah, tough one to answer because I feel like we've covered it.
Well, okay, put it this way. What are the top 3 additives that you would say if you were to... Your boss at work would say, look, take the winter off work. I want you to go and experiment with catching. I want you to catch a load of carp, right? What 3 bait additives or ingredients, whatever, would you want to be using in winter? You answer that, I'll go for a piss, and I'll rejoin when I come back.
3 bait additives. Okay, so first of all, a liquid. So... I mean, we've spoken about liquids. So last winter, I used a lot of condensed milk, and I mixed condensed milk with what did I mix it with? I can't even remember, mate. I was using the orange essential oil because I was quite into that last winter. And I mixed it with condensed milk, which is really thick, and I thinned it out with something which I can't remember what I was using. I caught quite a few fish with that. I might have just been using some lake water to thin it out. And I think I used some of the beta stim as well. In fact, it was the beta stim that I used to thin it out, and I think it's good. It clouds up the water. I use that on a few sort of day ticket runs, water fisheries. did fairly well. And I just mix that up with some, I was actually using Jason Ryder's wasp bait at the time, which I was just grinding up into next to nothing. So it was just basically powder form and using a liquid additive. For there, 3 liquid additives would I use. So I've mentioned 2. Any sort of hydro. I think hydros have their place. And CSL. I'd probably go for CSL, to be honest, over a hydro in the winter months. So that's 3 liquid additives. I don't know if Sam has returned.
Literally just sat down, but the question wasn't liquid additives. It's just winter bait additives. Doesn't have to be liquid.
Okay. Winter bait additives, mate. Mate, I'm very much. I just changed my baiting approach completely. So I don't know. I don't know if I would. The additives I use are very similar.
Fair enough, mate.
It's a difficult one. I feel like we cover it all the time, and I just repeating old ground. I've got nothing new to add to the party, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an easy one for me to answer, I think. So I read it as like things that I would use exclusively in winter, like really, really want to use in winter over other things. For me, essential oil wise, I've said this earlier, so again, broken record, but cinnamon leaf essential oil. I think as far as essential oil goes, that is tip top in wintertime. I really, really do. I think it's very, very good. Get a good quality one. Spend a bit of money on it. Cinnamon leaf essential oil is definitely one of them. The other, strongly, cannot stress this enough, esters. Esters are great all year round. Really, really important, in my opinion. But phenomenal in wintertime. So I definitely use esters as well. And I will mention it. Why? Because their ability to transcend through the water column and switch carp on into a feeding mode, I think, honestly, is hard to beat.
Is that so? It's purely because of their sort of more suited to cold water than warmer weather.
I think no, they're very well suited to warm weather. I just think less is suitable in winter than in summer, if that makes sense. So it's not particularly that they react with cold water and act more favourably. It's just that they aren't really hampered by the cold water compared to many other additives that we use, ingredients that we use. And I think, to be honest, the same can be said for most ingredients and additives that we deem as really good in winter. It's not necessarily that they react with cold water or the state of the carp better. It's more of the fact that they don't deteriorate in the cold water. Does that make sense? Like they still do their job and perform in the cold water. Esters are one of those. I mean, obviously, we just brought out our product Esterase, which is a blend of esters. And I am going to mention it because people might... I think that product's going to go down very well because a lot of people have heard of esters, or perhaps people that are really into the in-depth bait side of things. They've heard of esters, don't really know how to use them, don't know what ratios and blends to use because it can be a minefield and you can end up making something not very attractive. But yeah, blends of esters in winter, absolutely phenomenal. Which again is why we brought out Esterase. So yeah, for me, cinnamon leaf essential oil, Esterase, and then to pick a third, difficult, but something that would add like a visual stimulus, like a visual cue to the carp would be good, I think. Their eyesight is definitely hampered in winter. But I still think that's like a valid thing. So I like bright baits in winter, basically. That's what I'm saying. I could probably name loads of other stuff, but I think those are the big things. Like, if I think about what I'm doing in the winter, I'm using a bright hook bait, I'm using esters, and, sometimes I'd be using cinnamon leaf essential oil. Not always. I think those are like the big 3 for me, personally.
Yeah. No, you did a lot better job answering it than me. I think we covered a lot of that in our drunk episode, mate. I've got flashbacks, not that I've re-listened to it, and I can't really remember a lot of the discussion, but I know we spoke about a winter baiting approach, certainly.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
But, I mean, it's a time of year, isn't it?
Yes.
And what I notice is earlier and earlier every year, sort of all the topic of discussion, it's almost like September arrives and people are sort of switching on to winter topics straight away, aren't they?
Yeah, they're thinking ahead, maybe.
So the next question's from Nikki Beak. And I like this question. I think we can have a good chat about this. DMPT application, pre or post cooking. Now, DMPT is something I should have used more. I feel it's something that I've wanted to explore a lot more of, especially over the last few years. But I found myself, especially this year, doing a fair bit of product testing for bits and pieces for us, and I've not really explored it as much as I'd like. Things I'd like to, I guess, explore with it are using it in hook baits at maybe higher than the sort of suggested use rates. And another thing I've used it for is I've been using it in my liquids this year. Particularly I've been using DMPT, and I cannot remember off the top of my head. I want to say it's something like 0.5 gram per 100 mil, something like that. I can't remember. That might be very wrong. I've got it written down, and I've been using it with the squid brown fish sauce mixed 50-50 with some CSL, and I like it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, obviously, it's worth pointing out it's not to be used in feed baits. It's just for hook baits only.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't be using that in a liquid. Yeah. Anyway, people do, mate. Let's be honest.
Yeah. Do they?
Yeah. There's a few things, mate. I think I was only. Oh God. I guess we need to be careful. But this is an observation. I'm probably gonna. I'm probably gonna check it out. For example, CC Moore's lactose B milk plus sort of stimulant. You know the one I mean? The palatant powder, maybe?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's to be used in lures, hook baits only. I'm sure I saw it on the website. It's just something, you know, when you're browsing through, I could have that very wrong. I should read up on it before I open my mouth to slander. Disclaimer right there. But I'm pretty sure that that's a similar sort of thing. And I think people would use that in feed baits as well.
Yeah, sure. What's the question, though?
DMPT application, pre or post cooking?
Pre or post cooking? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's... Yeah, the thing is, I think it's one of those things, it's very easy to overdo it. I've heard about a very well-known angler using it, in a solution added to hook baits at seemingly very high levels. And apparently, someone has tested that, and like they own a bait firm. This is someone I'm friends with, by the way, so it's not like hearsay, and they've given it out to people and it's worked well. But for me, I'm wary of using it into higher levels, to be honest.
Is that because of its repellent nature to fish, or because of an ethical standpoint?
No, overload. No. Not ethical. No. I don't think it's like that good. I think it's good. I think it has a lot of scope for playing with, but I think if you're just soaking it on baits afterwards, I think you could overdo it. So yeah, I use it if I use it in hook baits, which I don't really, to be honest. But I would add it before boiling. I mean, you're boiling not mega hot temperatures. I think it's stable to like over 100 degrees off the top of my head. Might be slightly wrong on that. Might even be more than that.
See, I thought it was unstable at such high temperatures.
Don't think so.
No, just an inkling, mate. An inkling. I don't know a lot about it. Like I said, it's something I find intriguing. But
I mean, yeah, I think its melting point is way over 100 degrees, but obviously chemical changes can happen way before melting.
Whilst you've been saying that, mate, I've just been I've actually loaded up the CC Moore website. So the lactose concentrate B+ is what it is. Yeah, it does say to be used for hook baits only. Quite interested in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've used that in boilies in the past.
You're a bad man, Pete.
Yeah, I don't know if it came with that sort of disclaimer at the time. It might well have, and I didn't realise. But yeah, there we are. Cool. Where are we at? We're moving on. Next question. Jerk Sned Karen feed baits.
What did Jerk do to Karen? Say that again.
I don't know.
What's
He wants to know about feed baits. So
what's his name?
Jerk Sned Karen.
Okay. Is he Swedish or is it like a play on words?
I don't know, mate. I don't know. It's his handle. Leave him alone. You got anything? Nothing on feed baits?
Good old fish meal. Stonking fish meal. That's for me. Pete, you're more of a bird food and milk protein type guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I've not used a bird food milk protein type bait this year. I've been on a fish meal. But I do, mate. It's if I had to pick a bait to do all seasons and to fish with for the rest of my life, I probably would. For no other reason than it would just make me happier than fucking having a stinky old horrible fish meal.
That's so weird. I love it. I love the smell of a good fish meal. I really do. Yeah. Is it that you've done? I mean, because you've actually created. People probably don't get this from listening to us, but you've actually created a lot of baits in your time, and a lot of those have been very different from the norm. You've used animal proteins like chicken, poultry, etc. But you've shied away from fish meals, haven't you? Is that just because you want it to be very different from what anyone else is doing? I kind of know that's the case, but is that your driver for it, or what? Like what's behind all that?
Mate, I think with a lot of things I do, I just like to be a little bit different from the crowd. And it's not because I want to stand out. I don't know. I've never, I like to be a little bit different from the crowd, mate.
Let's be honest, you have a real problem conforming in any way, shape or form as well, don't you?
I think so, yeah.
You got like a real attitude problem, if I'm being honest, mate.
Yeah, I don't like any sort of, that's why I'm into my cryptocurrency and stuff. I just like a bit of decentralization.
Yeah, you're getting
power to the people.
More and more like that as you get older, though. Like I really notice it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you get, you're quite bitter about quite a few things, aren't you?
I guess it's turned into therapy again.
It's an observation. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm. Yeah, maybe.
You are.
I'm just a bit of a round peg trying to get in a square hole kind of thing, or a square peg trying to get in a round hole. I think that's what it boils down to, mate.
You're pretty square.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take it.
What is the
question?
No. What is the mate? I'm just letting you know the rums have kicked in. So
I'm getting the vibe. Go on.
Yeah. What do you think the best bait is? Feed bait, not hook bait. The best feed bait you've ever created. What is it?
Real good. Well,
I know what you're going to say as well, by the way.
Oh, okay. Go on.
Yeah. No. You go on.
Probably my old sort of chocolate malt sort of nut bait, mate.
Yeah.
That's what I'd go with.
Was that the one that you gave me and I fed to my fish and it was like they went nuts on it? And
No, it wasn't actually. That was a different bait.
Well, I say my fish. Back then it was my parents.
Yeah. You were desperate for the recipe of that.
I inflicted on them.
Yeah. You were desperate for the recipe of that. The irony is I didn't catch many fish on it. I moved on quite quickly from that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Why? You were so proud of that.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, I think I was actually using... using calcium chloride then. I think that's when I started experimenting with that at very low levels.
How long ago was that?
Oh, dude, I don't know. 10 years? More than that?
Mm.
Before you moved away, wasn't it? But
before I moved away, I had some carp. I had a carp at my parents' house in their pond, and some other fish. And yeah, they really liked that bait, didn't they?
Mm. Yeah, go on. Your greatest bait creation?
Feed bait? I don't know. Really don't know. No, I've made some good feed baits, but I think, mate, if I'm honest, I would say I've always been more of a hook bait guy.
No, you were rolling shitloads of feed bait back in the day. Lots, mate. I remember you, like all kinds of like different stuff. I remember you made a real garlicky one at one time. Your liver bait, a real dark one. Can you remember that?
No.
You won't remember any of this, do you?
No, I don't remember all that, mate. I really don't. The hook baits, I remember the hook baits more so than the feed baits, which is why I'm like, yeah. By the way, to people that don't know me, this would be like, what? He doesn't remember? Like, it just sounds so weird to people. But people that knew us from back then, knew me from back then at fishing with us, they'd be like, yeah, fucking Sam. You know, I was a very different person when I was younger than I am now. Yeah, no, I thought
Sam Beer Monster just comes out on a podcast.
Yeah, I have kind of always felt like I really find hook baits fascinating. I find bait fascinating, don't get me wrong, but like hook baits just seems different. There's a different level to it, right?
Do you know what? The first bait I ever rolled was, it's funny you say that, like sort of like with meat meals and stuff. So the first bait I ever rolled, so this is a little bit different, isn't it? A little bit wacky. And God knows why I did it, mate. It was poultry meal. I remember I ordered it, I think it must have been, I can't remember who I ordered it from. Actually, I want to say AA Bates, but I don't think it would have been AA Bates. It was before AA Bates. Poultry meal, and had some powdered garlic in there, fenugreek, and I think like Marmite or something. And then probably some Semon, soya, whatever. Weird first bait to roll.
You used poultry meal at several points, though, haven't you?
I think so, yeah. No, I wouldn't. No, not really. Just early on, mate. Early on, and I would roll that bait again now.
Yeah, I remember your. It was quite oily, wasn't it? Your poultry bait.
Nope, that was the nut bait.
It was the nut bait, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, fucking. I'm useless. No point asking me about this old stuff. It really ain't. Yeah,
should we get back into the questions?
Go for it. Go on.
Oh, mate. So, this is from Wade Upton, 1980. Hormones again. Eye emoji, crying face emoji.
Yeah, I'm sure we will talk about hormones at a later date, but I think some people got kind of misaccused and things like that, and I think perhaps we don't want to add fire to these people that are probably wrongly accused. So yeah, I think we're swerving it for now. I will say though, I think these hormones are being used by carp anglers, not necessarily named anglers.
I think we just move on, mate. We've already done this podcast.
Yeah, we deleted it.
Gone. That's it.
Why mention it then? Like, it's just...
It's a question. I'm going through the questions.
Yeah, why mention it if you don't want to talk about it?
Don't know. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I just said that.
Okay. Yeah, I just think we're just repeating old ground, aren't we?
No, because we've deleted those old grounds.
Ah.
Yeah, fine. Just we'll edit all of that out and just ignore that question. Ask a different one.
Okay, mate.
You sound like a dickhead.
Cool. All right. Next question from Tom.Sip. Methods of flavouring plastic hook baits. No, I don't really use plastic hook baits ever nowadays.
Oh, unfortunately, I do.
Yeah, well, you've got cray problems, haven't you?
Cray problems. Yeah.
Cray. Are you flavouring them these days?
Yeah. Again, I'm going to revert back to esters. You can overdo it. You really can. You can overcook the whole flavouring process. Same as in a pop-up. You know, you can make that too strong a flavour, in my opinion. I know some people would disagree with me. Same with plastics. If you just soaking them in a neat flavour, you need the right kind of flavour to do that with. Otherwise, it's just going to be way too strong. And when that carp gets near taking it in its mouth, it's just going to turn away and not take it in its mouth. And obviously, you're not going to get the hook hold because it's too overpowering. But yeah, absolutely, I would flavour plastics. You can use things like hydrolysates, but they don't really penetrate the plastic too efficiently. Essential oils can work well depending on the essential oil. If you wanted to just use an essential oil, I would recommend the sweet orange essential oil that we've spoken about before. I know when Dean was on, we were speaking about oils for life. But doTERRA actually do a very good quality orange essential oil. It's very expensive, unfortunately, but that's a very good one. Or the Oils for Life one is good as well.
Used to use, is it Hinder's Beetlin back in the day? Beetlin Black, the blackcurrant flavoured Beetlin I used to use for soaking in plastics.
See, I thought that was a newer thing, Beetlin Black. That hasn't been out long.
I think well, mate, I think it's been out a little while now. The Beetlin's been out a long time, but the flavoured ones, or Thalmatin B or something.
No, you're on about black and blue pot shots from Solar. Do you remember those little pot shots?
Yeah, I do. God, I wasn't on about, but that is really brought back some memories. It's got like the grey matter going.
Yeah, Solar did some freaking great flavours. They did these little pot shots, were like these little. They were smaller than film canisters, weren't they?
Oh yeah.
They were like straight-sided, snap-on lid. Oh man, I wish I had those left. I had quite a few of those. Wish I'd kept them. I probably gave them to you, didn't I?
You know what? You did give me a few. They're long gone, but yeah, I think I did get a couple.
Where have they gone?
Oh mate, I'm thrown away. I imagine.
Oh, why would you do that?
Used, thrown away, probably worth a fortune. But yeah, no, yeah, they're long gone, mate. Long gone. I remember back in the day, you used to use the Nash strawberry palette for your plastics.
Yeah,
you went for a phase of that.
It's a good one.
Pretty sure I saw Jim Shelley posted something about using that for his plastics. Is that right?
Yeah. Do we need to address this again? Like, you shouldn't use old bottles of flavour because they oxidize, they denature. Yeah, you want fresh flavours. You definitely don't want ones that are like 10 years old. It's really, really bad. Fresh is always best. But yeah, you're right, mate.
Next question. I'm going to say from someone who probably doesn't listen to all of the podcasts. Tyler, how you have an amazing son.
I do have an amazing son.
Yeah. Is he listening? Is he a keen listener?
Tunes in every time, mate.
That's nice of him to contribute, wasn't it?
Yeah, I love him. Yeah, he's good. Yeah. Good lad.
Theobald, 18. Base mix formulation, do's and don'ts.
This, I believe, is the... we have 2 generations of Theobalds listening to us. Which we've got like a father and a son, Theobalds. Which one is this?
Oh. Does
it say?
Well, it's just the Theobald 18. Is that the younger one? Is he 18 years old?
I guess so. Don't know.
Yeah, go on.
What's the question?
Base mix formulation, do's and don'ts.
Woof.
Don't overcomplicate things. Keep it
overcomplicate them.
Yeah, I had a little burp. Don't overcomplicate things. Keep it simple. Are you putting everything in there for a reason, or are you just putting it in because you're confident you've used it in a previous bait and you kind of want to put it in this bait as well? You know, I think keep it simple. Have a plan in mind and go with it. Any do's and don'ts for you?
Yeah, I mean, just to strip it back and go simple, I mean, don't have too many soluble ingredients because it's going to disintegrate or not roll. Don't have too little binders. You know, you need an adequate amount of binders in there so it rolls together. I suppose there's the actual like construction side of it, isn't there? Like, you need binders in there. You need a soluble aspect in there. You need it to roll. You need it to be not too sticky, so it'll actually go on the tables or through the machine. Like, all these things can seem secondary, but like, you formulate a mix, and then you're going to be rolling 20, 30, 40, 50 plus kilos of it a week or a fortnight. You're soon going to get fucked off if it's a really sticky mix and it's a bastard to work with. You know, a slight tweak could not affect its, potential to catch carp and give carp nutrients, but it could make all the time, in the rolling process, couldn't it, mate?
Absolutely.
You know all about that, because I like a stiff mix and you freaking hate it, don't you?
Hated rolling your stiff mix, yeah.
Yeah, we rolled a bait together, and I liked that particular bait stiff, like very dry. I think it was better. But yeah, it used to drive you mad, didn't it?
Yeah, we ended up just doing 2 batches because it was a fucking bitch to roll, and I'd happily have a wet mix and just gun it out and roll mine easy, and then yours would just be a slog. Like, the compressor didn't like it, the gun didn't like it, the rolling tables got fucked up.
That was a mammoth compressor as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
ridiculous industrial level shit. Yeah.
Good times. Cool. Okay, so SOX Ian, we know Ian. He's a long-time listener as well. This question sort of blends in quite well with what you're talking about in synergy. He asks, synergy, which ingredients / flavours work together? Again, with base mixes, I've got this weird thing, and something I'm convinced that work really well together is a good quality yeast powder and molasses. I think they work really well together in a bait. I think you can use that with a fish meal. I think you can use it with a bird food, with a nut bait. Many different applications. I think the 2 of them work together in many different bait applications.
It's sugar and yeast, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which is a good combo.
Yeah, have you got anything?
No.
Synergy?
You've always banged the drum of molasses as well, haven't you? Like, you've always been an advocate for as long as I can remember.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I am, mate. Confidence in it. Confidence. And I say the last recent period of my bait making, sort of molasses has gone over to the honeys.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've got anything you want to talk about with synergy there, mate?
Yeah, synergy is a real thing. There's, like, with certain flavour blends, I would go to a certain essential oil. Not necessarily what has been used historically, because we're all kind of guilty of that, aren't we? But some things do just work better with other things, for sure. Like, the things that jumps to mind for me is essential oils and certain flavours and certain esters. Like, I think certain combinations definitely seem to do better, and it stands to reason. Things complement each other. I don't like comparing carp food to human food, but let's just do it. It's gravy and roast potatoes goes really well together, but gravy and mayonnaise isn't very nice. But yet I've done a real bad job of explaining this. Let's say chips and mayonnaise. I love chips and mayonnaise, right? So potato and mayonnaise. Roast potato and gravy, great together. Would you have gravy and mayo together? No, it's just not going to be very nice, is it? I think as well, despite, what works with what for attraction and taste, I think as well, you got to look at release time of attractiveness. And again, I spoke about this earlier. I think you want a combination of things in that hook bait or feed bait that are active for as long a period as possible. So if a fish does come across that bait 48 hours after it's been put in, there's still something there that's causing it to be attractive, rather than, all of your, let's just say your only attraction is an EA flavour and it's going to leak out like pretty damn quickly. If you're expecting your bite to come 24 hours after you put your rod out, you don't want to be reliant just upon an EA flavour and some highly soluble ingredients. You know, you want something that's going to stay in the bait for longer. So I think synergy in terms of attraction window is really important as well. Like, you want it to be attractive straight away as well. In the same respect, you don't want something that's only going to be attractive after being submerged for ages. But yeah, I don't know. Great question. Like, huge topic. That's probably just one podcast in just that, isn't it? Well, certainly it could be if we really went into it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And like you say, synergy is not just sort of flavours and ingredients, is it? It's
no. How about
many.
this? Synergy in between the reactivity of the ingredients and the water environment. Not just temperature, but let's say you've got you're in a very hard water area. There's certain things, I won't go into it too much because we might do something further down the line. But if you're in a hard water area, soft water area, certain things you can use in your bait which will, really help you out in terms of attraction and the willingness of carp to feed. And that is how that substance, let's call it, or that thing reacts with the water quality that it's in. That's synergy of sorts, isn't it? So yeah, I guess that's a good message, isn't it? Without sounding too happy clappy, but think about the synergy of what you're doing in all levels. Not only the ingredients that you're putting together, but the water that you're putting it in, the time of year that you're using it, the time frame that you're using it in, what kind of substrate you're putting it over. It's like how your bait and your bait ingredients react with the environment. I think that all comes under the umbrella of synergy, doesn't it? It's all really important.
Yeah, big topic. One of those ones you could blend everything into it, can't you?
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have we answered it okay, though? I want to make sure I answer this well.
I think so, mate. Rossi Cop 1 has come at us with, can you use a bait to target certain fish, e.g. old fish, mirrors or commons? So obviously when we had Stephen on for his two podcasts, he went in depth about this and how he was targeting older fish, mirrors and commons. And I know certainly we've spoken about it in the past, haven't we, with my ability to only catch commons on a certain bait.
Yeah, I'm fucking pissed right now, just to let everyone know.
Okay. So basically, I think Stephen was really... it's a fascinating episode. Really worth listening to, Rossi, if you haven't listened to it. He certainly believes that commons are more sort of predatory, more sight feeders. So lighter coloured baits were attractive to commons, and that's how he targeted them. And then he sort of also really goes into detail how he was targeting some of the older fish there, and some of the mirrors as well. I think the older fish in that particular water he was talking about happened to be mirrors, whereas the commons were maybe the younger fish. To be honest, I'd need to re-listen to go back into that, but I would certainly say to go and listen to that episode. I've caught a lot of commons on a nut bait previously, which sort of tied into what Stephen was saying about a light coloured bait and being sort of more predatory feeders, sight feeders. I was convinced at the time, again, it was to do with the molasses. The molasses I was using in that particular bait, I think, is a very, very... if you were to target commons, I would certainly look at using molasses in your bait, because I'm certain they find it appealing, more so than mirrors.
If Stephen's saying, I don't doubt the guy at all, but if he's saying, light coloured baits... he's picking out the commons because it's a sight thing. Someone, say on the Cotswold Water Park, could listen to that and be like, shit, okay, well, I'm targeting a big common. I'm going to use light baits. I'm going to use a nice kind of, pale sandy coloured bait. Yet they're fishing over sandy coloured gravel, and actually that bait is anything but bright or stand outish. It's actually really blending in. So again, it go back to Ian's question about synergy. It's like if you're fishing, whitey, yellowy baits over some silt, then yeah, it's a high visual bait, isn't it? If you're fishing a real dark fish meal over gravel, that's a high visual bait. You know, like bright yellow pop-ups. People think of them as high vis, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you put one of those over gravel, put it next to a dark fish meal, like the fish meal I use, R1, that's like a dark grey kind of colour. Put them next to each other, like the what you'd think of a dull fish meal. It's going to stand out way more on that gravel, that sandy coloured gravel. So you've got to think about that. The other thing I was going to mention is, you said about molasses, Pete, catching commons. In your opinion, what is it that is catching the commons in molasses? Is it the sugar, betaine, something else?
Honestly, I have no idea. Like you say, it could be the sugar content, it could be the betaine content. I don't know. But it certainly picks them out. I'm convinced by it. Another thing which was sort of like playing to my theory, and I mentioned calcium chloride, which I mentioned on a few podcasts. It's not something I use really anymore, but it's something I've used over the years. And you talking about soft and hard water. So the water down here is really soft. Very little dissolved solids in the water. Very little calcium in the water. And obviously commons have a lot of scales. I can only assume they're sort of the need for calcium in a diet would be more than mirrors.
Yeah.
And maybe the fact that I was supplementing that in a feed bait could have been it, you know?
I think you're like bang on there, mate. I really do.
Yeah. So that's been a little theory, sort of like long-standing as well. I don't really. It's not something I've done across the country on different water tables. It's not something I've experimented with, so I couldn't sort of say for certain. But just a little theory in my head.
Yeah. If I was targeting a very big common, I'd definitely be utilising cassia essential oil alongside some other things, some of which Pete have mentioned already. I mean, there's a lot of essential oils that when you look at their actual makeup, there's a lot of similarities. Have you done much with those kind of essential oils, Pete, or not so much?
Not huge amounts. I mean, we get listeners sort of messaging about the cinnamon essential oils a lot, and I'll always say to them, to be honest, not something I've used to a great extent. Something you've used a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you talking about the eugenol content?
Yeah, eugenol. Yeah, there's some other bits as well. You could look, any essential oil you're interested in, Google it. Google its makeup, and you will find these papers and graphs which will detail their makeup. And then Google another one. Yeah, this is the beautiful thing, isn't it, about the day and age? Like all the information is out there. It's all out there. Did you ask me a question? I feel like you asked me a question now. I've gone off on a fucking
No, mate,
I am
really.
proper pissed, by the way.
Not really, mate. Not really. We've got 2 more questions, Facebook questions. So one of them from Ray, so another long-term listener. So, hello, Ray. Can a carp bait be too rich?
Can it be too rich? Rich in what?
I don't know, but I would say too much of anything isn't necessarily a good thing. So the bait's got to be balanced. You sort of, if you were to think of it in human perspective, obviously, sort of like certain food could be really rich and you'd eat it and be a bit like, oh, that's a bit much.
Yeah.
I don't know how to put that into carp bait perspective, if I'm honest.
I think the answer, the brief answer, I think I understand this question. I think the brief answer is yeah, it can be too rich. It just depends in what. Can it be too rich in a flavour? Yeah, like definitely. And Ray knows this. Like if it's the Ray I'm thinking of,
yeah,
he knows that. Can it be too rich in amino acids? Harder question to answer. I would say yes. I believe it can. Can it be too rich in organic acids? I believe yes, it can. So yeah, on the whole, I think yeah. I think balance is key.
Cool. Okay, mate. So we're on to the last question now, which is from Nicky Scadden. How do you do his accent, Sam?
Hey?
Nicky Scadden.
I don't know.
No, you don't. Okay. I think in a drunk episode, didn't you pretend he was a Scouser?
Is that? Oh, it's the Scouse, isn't it? Nicky Scadden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I can't read it all, mate, because of the way it's screenshot. But what happened to Dean's one? That was ... I'm guessing we were meant to record.
Oh, yeah,
Technical fuck up.
Technical fuck up. Yeah, we were recording. Yes, we put on social media. We were interviewing Dean, and we were going to release that episode. Unfortunately, the audio got fucked up. We did quite a few hours with Dean, didn't we? He was on the bank as well. Yeah, it was a mess. We basically lost the audio file. But
am I right in thinking that some of it's usable, which might feature in the 10-hour megathon?
Some of it's usable. Whether we can actually make it coherent to put in an episode, I don't know. Yeah, maybe. So yeah, watch this space. We will definitely do our best to get Dean back on.
Cool. That rounds up the questions, mate. A lot of questions. We're pretty blessed, aren't we? We get a lot of responses.
Blessed? Did you really just say that?
Yeah, mate.
Fucking we're pretty blessed. Okay, Pete.
We got a lot of listeners now, mate. They engage with us. They like to put things to us and hear our opinions, mate. We're lucky.
Yeah, I feel like we do these episodes and we're pretty much just answering questions. I don't know if it's boring for people or not, but people seem to like it. As long as you like it, we'll keep doing it. Basically, won't we? Perhaps we should do soon a more structured episode. We'll pick a topic. Maybe actually base mix formulation is the topic we should do. But we'll pick something like that and we will literally spend a whole episode on one topic and we will go balls deep on it. How about that?
I think that sounds like a plan. That one's cropped up a lot, isn't it? People, yeah.
I think, though, to be honest, what is it now? What is the day? It is, as we record this, it's the 25th of November. The next Sam and Pete episode, it's got to be Christmas special. Are we doing a Christmas special?
Yeah.
We've got to, haven't we?
Yeah.
Got to make it fun, though.
Okay.
Let's do stories of times gone by.
Mate, they just involve you and poo. I think we've covered them.
Yeah, we did do an episode on it, but reality is, if we had a scratch round, we've got so many stories.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we got some good stories. We'll do a Christmas special, story special type thing. That's all the questions answered. Pete, anything you want to add to this?
No, I don't think so. We've realised, like you say, we've recorded a couple of bits, haven't we, for the 10-hour one of late?
Yeah.
We haven't put anything out since the ones that we had taken down. So it's long overdue an episode, really, aren't we? Just to put something out there.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this. I know I appreciate we've just been waffling on, answering questions, and I'm pretty damn pissed right now. But if you enjoy our podcast, if you get anything out of them, honestly, it makes the world of difference if you could just leave us a review, if you feel inclined to do so. We would really appreciate that. Anyone that listens on Apple, iPhone, iTunes, you can leave us a review. And we read all of them. We really appreciate them. Pete, man, it's nice to catch up with you, dude. I feel like we haven't had a decent chat for ages.
No.
I know we briefly chat about different things, but that's generally about testing different ingredients. It's good to chat bait and chat fishing, and perhaps next episode we will have a little bit more to talk about regarding our own fishing adventures.
Cool. We need to make that social, mate. We need to do that.
Yeah, social's been pending since April, isn't it?
I think, is it really that long?
Yeah, that was our last. Was our last social like March or something?
Probably.
Yeah, we're bad at it. We need to get... Oh, that's the other thing we need to do, actually. Whilst think of it, we need to do a Carp Chronicles podcast social for our listeners.
Big time.
We've had a lot of questions about that. We need to do that. We can definitely make that happen. Perhaps we'll rent out a lake or something, and invite you all, and yeah, we'll get together. But yeah, there we go.
Good night, guys.